John Jones is the GOAT.
He's the GOAT.
Now it's undeniable.
It's undeniable.
There was all this debate until he submitted Cyril Gane and became the heavyweight champion. No one can fuck with that.
Smashed him, bro.
Smashed him.
Cyril looked kind of unbeatable up until the Francis fight.
Well, the Francis fight exposed one aspect of his game that you're never going to beat John in, and that's the wrestling.
Yeah.
And then everybody said, well, he didn't know that Francis was going to wrestle him. Given. Francis is not the caliber of wrestler or even in the realm of John Jones.
No doubt.
John Jones has been wrestling since he was 12 years old. He took down Daniel Cormier, who's an Olympic-level wrestler.
Yep.
There is not a guy in the world that can say that you could start wrestling at 29 years old. I mean, you'd have to be the freakiest of freak athletes to be able to compete with that guy to start wrestling when Cyril Gane started wrestling.
Right.
The gap is just too wide to cross.
Right.
The day he fought for the title, he chased down a guy who robbed someone and tackled him and held him until the cops came.
Right.
And then, went and fought Shogun and became the youngest ever UFC champion.
Yep.
John is very different than Kamaru. John is what I would describe is there's human beings that have different temperament and different minds and different mentality and a ruthless competitive drive that's almost terrifying to the ordinary person. That's John Jones. John Jones is a bad guy who's trying to be a good guy.
Right.
But that guy, if we were living 1,000 years ago, he would be on a horse with the biggest battle axe, waiting in the back, hacking heads off, and everybody would be running. And those people have always existed. These dominators have always existed.
Yeah.
But John is like a genuinely sensitive, intelligent guy who's trying to do the right thing. But he's a fucking conqueror. He's a fucking conqueror. That's the thing that's inside of him that leads him to be the GOAT. And without that, you don't get there. You don't get that. You don't get a Mike Tyson without that. You don't get a Muhammad Ali without that. You don't get a Marvin Hagler without that.
Yep.
You don't get that. That there's a thing inside some people that is a driving force that allows them to overcome the greatest around them. It's a Michael Jordan. It's a
100%.
There's a thing, man.
Tom Brady.
And those motherfuckers are hated. They're always hated.
For sure.
Because you have to hate them because you can't beat them.
It's
He was not dealing with guys that are of the caliber of the guys that John Jones was facing. John Jones was facing Gustafsson, Glover Teixeira. He was facing Daniel Cormier. He was facing the elite of the elite, and he never fucking lost, even when he was doing coke and he wasn't even training.
Right.
That's how goddamn good John Jones is.
Right.
And when John Jones talks about fights, though, when I had him on the podcast, one of the things that he talked about, some people don't really watch tape or they only watch a little bit. They let their coaches do the work. John Jones studies everyone. He studies their tendencies. He gets in his mind how when you throw that left kick, you make this little step with your right foot. You might do this thing when you shoot for a takedown where you keep your you keep your head on one side every time. You might do this thing where when someone throws a right hand, you always lean to the left. You might do and John Jones picked up that tendency, and that's how he knocked out Daniel Cormier. He knew Daniel Cormier has a tendency to duck towards his right side because he goes for that single on the left leg, and John caught him with the perfect head kick. But it wasn't by an accident. He set that up. He set it up just like Leon Edwards set up that head kick on Kamaru. There's a beauty to that that's just, man, in the middle of chaos and anxiety and fear and the fucking fog of war, you figure out a way to connect with this thing that you saw in tape and in training and in preparation. So it's with John, it's not an accident that he's the GOAT. Even with his lack of training, even with it's just like he's so fucking talented that he almost needs another John Jones to make him compete the way make him train the way a lot of these other guys do. Like he's so good, he can beat those guys without being challenged by someone like him.
Right.
Because John Jones has never faced a John Jones.